Uh-oh. Tuki is a dexterity-style pattern-building tower stacking game where players race to complete a range of different stone structures using these coloured blocks. The player who has the greatest eye for detail and the steadiest hand will win the game. In Tuki, players will be balancing these coloured stone sticks by using 4 different snow-shaped blocks to do so. To set up a game of Tuki, decide which level of difficulty you'll be playing. The beginner level cards are denoted by the purple background and will only use the blue, grey and purple stones. The advanced level cards are indicated by the orange background and will use all 4 different coloured stone sticks. After deciding on the game mode, collect the relevant sticks and place the corresponding deck into the card holder. At the beginning of each round, one player is allocated as the scout who rolls the die but does not participate in the active round. The die features 3 key animal images that correspond to the edges of each puzzle card. When the scout rolls an animal, players will need to turn the puzzle card in the orientation of that animal. Just like building a snowman, players will need to brace the cold and race against each other to stack their coloured blocks in the orientation shown on the card, ensuring that the coloured stones that they use touch the playing surface. Players will use these white snow blocks to support their completed structure. If a player rolls an animal symbol with a white square under it, players will need to build their structure completely on top of their white blocks so that none of the coloured blocks touch the playing surface. At the end of the round, it's judgment time. The player who last completed their stone structure correctly loses the round and takes the puzzle card as a penalty. However, if another player made a mistake, they take the card instead. The player who received the card now becomes the scout for the next round. If a player receives their 5th puzzle card, they are eliminated from the game and the remaining players play one more round to determine the winner. Several things that I really enjoy about the game Tuki. First of all, I really love the racing element where players are trying to grab their blocks and trying to figure out the best way to put them together to try and stack them, to try and create the pattern that's on these cards. I also really like the fact that this game has this huge puzzly element to it, and when players have finished building their structures, it's always interesting to see and look around how other players have built the same structure, and to your surprise, there's so many different ways to use these blocks to create the structures that appear on these cards, which is really kind of mind-boggling and kind of amazing at the same time. I also like that the game has very simple rules, it's very easy to get into, and it's a great game to play either at the beginning of a games night or at the end of a games night because it really has this excellent table presence and people just really delve into the game as soon as possible. I also like the game design element where the person who is the last person to build the structure gets the penalty card rather than just simply awarding a card to the person who builds it first, because this gives all players an opportunity to have a really good go at trying to build the structure, and sometimes some of the structures do take a little bit of time to figure out how to actually get them in the positions that you need to get them into. So I like that little design rule tweak because it means that most players aren't just going to give up halfway. Give the advanced version a go. Roll the die. Got a polar bear symbol with a dot underneath, which means I'm going to have to build this structure so that the coloured blocks don't actually touch the playing surface, which is going to be quite challenging. So let's have a look at what this is. Alright, this is going to be somewhat challenging. Can't be on any of, so put the blue one there, the grey one there. And playing on a ottoman is probably not the best idea at this point because ottomans are not always that flat. So I've also got to build a little tower of some sort. If I lean that against the grey one, it's hopefully going to be a lot more stable. I build something a little bit stronger here. I think I may have achieved it. Let's check to see if it is right. Ah! It fell! There are some points to consider if you're thinking about getting Tuki for your board game collection. First of all, the game lists itself as a 4-player game, but there's only enough equipment in the box for 3 players. which means that one player takes on the role of the scout from round to round, and their job is to make sure that everyone's following the rules and they're checking the structures and keeping everything intact and determining who the first player to complete the structure was or who the last player to complete it was. So that role does change from round to round, so one player isn't stuck just watching the entire game, but that can be a little bit problematic if you all want to be involved in building the structures and playing the game. So I've found a way to get around it. First of all, you could pair everybody up, so potentially this game could go up to 6 players, and have each pair of players play with one set of blocks, which means that it almost has this, or elevates it to this party-like game level, which means that you could have 3 teams of 2 versing or facing off against each other. You could also play a team variant where you're just having 2 sets of blocks and split your party group or your game group into 2 teams, and they can kind of face off against each other that way and rotate the players from round to round. It means that there's a lot more competitiveness to the game, and you also still have that chance where someone can be the scout and check that people are building their structures correctly and determining who the actual winner is. That brings me to my second point, and the second point is that there's no real way that players kind of interact with the other players other than to race against them. So there's nothing that I can do to the other player that kind of hinders their ability or makes it more difficult for them to build their structure. And that's probably something that was, taken out of the game because that might seem a little bit mean-spirited, so I can understand that element of it. But this is a true racing game, which means that you're kind of building your own structure on your own terms, and you're trying to do it more efficiently than the other players. Also, if there was an expansion to this game, which I would really love to see, I'd love to see a range of different shaped blocks being added to the expansion. I also like to see different structures and maybe some rule tweaks. So a rule where you can only use one hand in the next round, or use your non-dominant hand when you build your structure. So some rule tweaks to make the dexterity element a lot more engaging and varied will be such a welcome addition to the game. So in considering my final verdict, Tuki is a welcomed addition to the plethora of dexterity games out there. It's really easy to teach, it's got an excellent table presence, and it's one that the whole family will enjoy. Thank you once again for joining me for another board game video at Board Game Sanctuary. I want to say a huge thank you to all the people who currently subscribe and support me in my endeavors on this channel. If you really like this video, please remember to smash the like, subscribe, and share button. And I look forward to bringing you some new videos in the near future. This is Danny signing out. Goodbye.